Now presenting Mr. Mike Coyne, Governor's Hurricane Conference Board member representing the National Weather Service.
Good afternoon, everyone. Our next award is the Tropical Meteorology Award. It's presented to an individual or organization that has made outstanding or substantial contributions to the advancement and knowledge, application, or understanding of the hurricane forecasting and warning process in the state of Florida. Since 2004, Mr. Mike Boylan has been educating people about trends, model runs, and everything else tropical weather related through his website. He does not forecast, but his dedication and contributions to the citizens of Florida and providing tropical weather information in layman's terms, helping to explain what the forecast trends mean and how to follow all the extensive maps, charts, and graphs located on his website, Mike's weather page, aka spaghettimodels.com. The 2021 Tropical Meteorology Award goes to Mike Boylan of Mike's weather page.
Just click on Mike's page, jump on the nation. Well, there'll always be some haters. They don't understand. Mike's got a friend and 100,000 more across the land. Well, if you want to know it first and you want to know it right and you want to have time to plan, Drunk Donkey Nation tells your friend, Mike, he's your man. And he's gonna tell you all about the wind and the rain. Gonna tell you if it's gonna be a storm or if it's gonna be a hurricane. Don't you worry about the news others try to hide. Click on Mike's page, Drunk Donkey Nationwide. Yeah, here at Mike's page, Drunk Donkey Nationwide.
Alrighty, man, here we are. Good morning. Welcome to the very important Daily Brew here on a Monday, watching a potential major hurricane here in the Gulf of Mexico here in just a few short days, okay? I was trying to figure, let me get Louie. I got both dogs on my laps. We got to keep tradition up for everybody. A lot of people love our dogs, so we'll talk loosely here real quick, and then we'll get into all the latest. But everything is, we've been talking about this system for a while. Here it is. It's developing before our eyes. Some worst case scenarios are now showing up in models, and I think everybody's in a denial. I'm kind of that way because we don't have a NHC cone yet. We have an area that's showing 90%, and you're like, man, really? But I'm generally worried about this system. I'm worried about people not taking it serious, laughing it off, comparing it to other systems that we've had recently. We could be legitimately looking at a major hurricane in the Gulf of Mexico. Okay, that's a lot different than what we saw with Beryl and with Debbie, and so we got to talk about that. The modeling is very intense. I'm a little confused about the tone of everybody right now, how this is not a more bigger deal than some of the wording that I'm reading, it's official wording. And my biggest fear is people turn the news on and then they turn it off. And, I've heard this story many, many, many times in the past. it sneaks up on people. Not everybody's glued to social media like you and I. So, I'm really worried. So we're going to, digest these models. Models have never steered us wrong. And, somebody's going to unfortunately be impacted. And it's going to be more than just landfall. So it's real, folks. This is real. This is real. This is not hype anymore. This is not what is. This is genuine danger ahead. Okay, and I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I'm a Florida native, I'm not a meteorologist. Okay, I've got to get that out of there. We have a lot of new folks. They probably wonder who the heck is this Mike. We got 3 million followers now across all social. Thank you for watching. I'm just a hobbyist. However, I've made a lot of great partners over the years. FDEM's one of them, Florida Division of Emergency Management. Kevin Guthrie will be on our show probably a couple times, hopefully. Friends with FEMA, friends with National Weather Service, friends with NOAA. So, hopefully I can spread some information and experiences in a different perspective maybe than what you're used to hearing and seeing in a normal news broadcast. I storm chase now. I've seen things firsthand. I've turned into a Debbie Downer. I encouraged people to evacuate if told. Things I never used to think about until I started storm chasing, what I see, the effects you're going to feel, and hopefully I'll be able to share some of that with you today. And we're talking about a landfalling hurricane here in 4 days, okay? And I'm worried even here in Tampa, to be honest with you, and I'll tell you why. Not so much of a real possibility yet, but we got to be watching this thing close. So I'm not going to be able to read comments. This is going to be straight into the point. I know there's a bazillion comments, and I don't want to answer one and not another. So we'll just keep everybody fair and not answer any. Maybe the end. But this is Hunter doing his best Louis impression, by the way. He tries to be like his big brother. So yeah, this is serious. We want to get the word out. So we're going to get into it. Hopefully this fizzles and maybe the models are wrong, but I think rumor on the street is at 11 o'clock we're going to see watches and warnings put up, or at least down in Cuba maybe. I was reading, or Yucatan. I don't know where they'll put the watches and warnings up, but hopefully we get a PTC at 11. That will give us an NHC cone, okay? And that'll make things a whole lot clearer and real for a lot of folks, okay? And I know a lot of folks don't think it's real until they see official information. So hopefully 11 a.m. I heard there's a rumor we might see that. So we'll see at 11 if we get a PTC from the National Hurricane Center, which would give us a really good picture on timing, the cone, that kind of stuff. So, yeah. All right, so welcome again to the Daily Brew here. We've got a lot of great supporters. It wouldn't be right if I didn't mention my first, since this is going to be a Florida storm with impacts beyond Florida, but initially Florida will feel this starting as early as Wednesday. Big thanks to ABC Fine Wine and Spirits. I had a speaking engagement planned today in Orlando. They called this morning, Sean. Appreciate it. They, said I have more important things to do, so I love ABC and was willing to go over there and come back home tonight, so I get to stay home and do coverage. But we love them. If you're in Florida, please support them. They support me and my family, and we really appreciate all that they do. I just can't believe we're talking about a major hurricane possibly. This is really, here we are. All right, real quick, I got to get this out of the way. I see a lot of hype for this new red area, all right? I need to get this out of the way. There's another red area out there. We're only going to focus on this one, but let me show you this. Okay. That's the red area way out there. Tremendous model support this thing lifts out of here. They call that a recurve, okay, way east of Bermuda. So any hype about another system is just hype, and I will call somebody out on that, okay? We don't have any definite modeling yet about anything other than what we're worried about right now, Invest 97. So we'll get that out of the way. What we're worried about is this guy, all right? It doesn't look like much because we don't have a cone, but that is serious right here, all right? The red area is where they think it can develop. It actually looks like a cone. It's not really a cone, but it kind of is a cone. I have a feeling it's going to develop a whole lot quicker than this. It's going to be developing very, very soon. Hurricane hunters are flying out there multiple times today. Once they establish that true center, then modeling will become a little bit clearer. Now, we're not talking major shifts here, okay? There's no way. Upper pattern steering currents do not change. The wiggle, the wobble, we're not going to see like this thing go to Texas or Louisiana. We're going to see wiggles and wobbles, and that can mean so much for the Florida Peninsula on how close to the coast, okay? We'll get into that here in a little bit more. But it might not look like much. This is what it is. Believe it or not. We've been getting a lot of convection that's been blowing off towards the east a little bit. The center is actually pretty clear, believe it or not. But it looks like it's heading toward Hispaniola. I had people asking me, that's just upper level convection with the lower level shear blowing that direction. So that is not the storm moving that direction. Okay, we're going to see constant flare-ups around center as this thing slowly makes that Yucatan gap. So that's what it looks like now. Doesn't look like much, but it will soon. Latest spaghetti model just came out on tropicaltidbits.com. I have these linked, of course, on the site. You can access them there. They go to tropicaltidbits.com. High confidence, okay? High confidence on these models. Believe it or not, that is pretty high confidence for a system 4 days away. We're going to see outliers on either side. But usually don't get this high of confidence this early on. Little shifts west, little shifts east, okay? The big point, though, on any of this stuff is what it does down here. You know, if it goes a little to the east, I'm going to show you it could ride the eastern side of these ensembles. But that's pretty high confidence. Now, what's going on up here? The big change that we started seeing yesterday is we got a developing high pressure system here that's going to kind of block and shove it back this way. We have a cutoff low pressure system that's coming down that's actually this is going to merge into. So we have a big low going to absorb whatever's left of Helene, unless that other system takes Helene. So that's what it's gravitating to. We have a cutoff low coming down. I don't even have any of those maps up because I think nobody cares about that right now. But that's why we're seeing a shove off to the west. There's a low coming down. It's actually lifting it. It's going to react to this high pressure, and it's actually going to get absorbed. Could have a Fujiwara effect, or whatever that's called, over land, where the two lows combine. Could mean a lot of rain. It could, rain. We might have bigger flooding problems there than we do because this is going to be a fast-moving system. Latest intensity models, these are usually conservative. Not right now. We have a lot of them Cat 3, couple Cat 4s. So there are a few showing no. Good news, right? But obviously our high intensity models that I've been sharing are worrisome. So that's the latest on that. Here are the latest ensembles on the GFS. These are the 6Z ensemble plot. High confidence. We do have some outliers to the east. We have some outliers to the west. This is a different setup. Very tricky setup. All right. If we had a strong frontal line coming down, we would have a higher likelihood of an unexpected shift to the east and through the state. East Coast states are going to feel effects, but the consistency and confidence of that movement towards that cutoff low that's coming down is increasing. Now, this is really wild because we're getting a zigzag. All right. Worst case for everybody would be a closer track here and then a zigzag bag there, meaning a lot more effects here, effects here, effects here, effects here. So I think if we had anything unexpected would be, when does this thing zag back to the west? There's a weakness showing up. This thing could be developing. So it could be developing a little bit to the east right now, which would ride the eastern edge of these spaghetti models. But then we could get an unexpected little kick back to that northwest at the last second for the final landfall. So this is a little different. I think, both, not to hype it up, but both sides ensembles I would be, just paying attention to because of this last second northwest jog it's expected to take. Main thing, it's going to be moving super duper fast. That means it won't have a lot of time to react to any major changes. We're talking little nudges here and there. We're going to see that in the modeling. The main thing is the intensity is consistent. The overall track, believe it or not, is consistent. And we got to remember, this is going to be a big system, okay? Landfall is going to be terrible, okay? But the effects to the east, I see more people commenting about Florida. Oh, good thing East Coast is gonna, isn't gonna get anything. No, man, we're gonna see. I'm gonna show you some radar from other storms. We're gonna see feeder bands rolling in on Wednesday that could be tornadoes, surge. I dare you, it was 100 miles off the Florida coast, and we had surge from Lee County north. Okay, we could see surge actually going around the Big Bend area. I call this the Big Bend. What do they call that? The opposite of Big Bend, Jacksonville area. This thing, Irma, was so big that it brought surge into Brunswick, Savannah, and Jacksonville area. So, we're going to see feeder bands way east to center like we always do, and then inland. The number I posted this morning, and I got another graphic for that. But anyway, here's the GFS ensembles. These are on weathernerds.org, by the way, right here, weathernerds.org. Hi, Florida. And I guess we'll keep it here. The other point I was going to make is this thing could have effects way inland. Okay. Hurricane Michael had Cat 3 winds in Georgia and Alabama, 115 miles an hour. Somebody pointed out today. So, again, we don't focus on landfall on a fast-moving, low-pressure system because they take time to weaken. They're just not going to go from 9, 20, 30 millibar to nothing in a split second. So, unfortunately, for systems like this, we have effects way inland. Okay? Just not the coast at all. Here's your latest European ensembles. Pretty much the same, right? A couple outliers on the west coast, a couple outliers on the western edge, but high confidence, man. Still, that upper panhandle with east side impacts with inland. Now the European model is pretty good for tracks this close to a storm, but is not very good with intensity. Okay, so stronger systems have a typical eastern bias due to something called the Coriolis effect. Natural motion of storms want to turn east, so sometimes stronger systems turn east. And my only concern with any of these spaghetti models here, let me show you the latest blend. Now, this is an awesome website, Tomerberg. I have it linked on my site. This blends all models together. And we have a black statistical mean line, which is very consistent. I know you can't really see it, but that's the tip of the Florida Panhandle. But we also have quite a few ensembles off to the east. And you notice where these initiate. So if our system does indeed develop east of where these models think it is right now, it's going to ride this direction more than likely. So the initialization is so important today. Does it ride on the eastern side of these ensembles or the western side of these ensembles? But the zigzag is coming. Very high likelihood the zigzag's coming. We got high pressure rolling in. You can see that right here. So believe it, we have really good confidence in the general track at this point. We have really good confidence that this is probably going to be a major hurricane, believe it or not. And we actually have really good confidence on timing. So it's pretty rare 4 days out to see this much model agreement on timing and intensity, okay? So it's serious, folks. I'm telling you, all right? Major hurricanes in the Gulf of Mexico with these conditions that we got. I mean, you got the hottest water since 2013. We have this MJO phase that's come by. We have a loop current that this is going to ride up all the way up through the Gulf of Mexico. And I don't like strengthening systems moving fast because that means we have a lot more impacts inland. And that's the number one thing people tell me is, holy crap, I had no idea we were going to get impacted inland, okay? That's the Florida Peninsula all the way up north, Alabama, Georgia, even South Carolina. We're going to have a feeder band rolling your way. And in surge, I'm telling you, we get Florida surge with storms that are 100 miles off our coast. So, you got to pay attention. Surge is going to be bad wherever landfall is. I can tell you that, too. This thing is going to be wide. It's going to be low pressure, and that unfortunately creates a lot of surge. Okay, We haven't had one like this in a couple years. We had a Dahlia last year. It was a weakening 3. Still terrible impacts well into Georgia. But this has the potential to be a stronger system than that. So what it looks like right now, this is really different from last night. This is our windy map. We use all the different layers. But let me tell you, that's some clear circulation going on right now at the surface levels. 700 millibars and too far behind, 500 millibars, a little bit behind. So it's not stacked perfect yet, but you can see it's trying to really get spinning here with overall convection. So that's what they're going to be watching for. There's the Cayman Islands right there. So that, again, an exit here would put a lot more impacts on the eastern side of that spaghetti plot, and the exit here would go more up towards the panhandle. So this gap is so crucial where it exits on its final journey north. Timing. These are things that are big questions that I think we should be thankful, if anything, that we have some sort of consistency on timing and general location. That's huge. It's, and I will tell you this, because I randomly go through these thoughts and I don't want to forget, but one thing I've been studying a lot over the years is when we get a 2 to 3 day forecast and we get this cone, an NHC cone, and the NHC cone is anywhere that they believe the eye could go, okay? Unfortunately, a system that might be strong, the effects are going to be way outside of the cone sometimes. But what I also see is wherever that center line is 2 to 3 days out, usually that's not where the storm goes anymore, okay? Countless storms have rode on the outer side of that cone. So this first cone comes out at 11, NHC is great with possibilities of where the center can go. But if you're in that cone, and if you're east of that cone, that's effects. And if, what we saw with Ian, I don't have to remind people, even though it was focused on the panhandle, that cone still included Fort Myers, and we had effects down to the Keys and Naples way outside the cone. So tracks shift. Francine shifted. It was not supposed to go to New Orleans. It rode on that outside edge of that cone for Francine, and New Orleans got a lot more than they expected. So we can't focus on that center line 2 or 3 days out. We have to really look at the outliers, as history says the outliers sometimes win. That's my focus this year. That was what I was going to tell myself, to remind people we pay attention to the outliers. Irma was an outlier. Okay? Ian was an outlier. I mean, it's countless. This is interesting stat. So people might be new to hurricanes. They might say, well, how is this thing nothing and it's going to be a major hurricane? Well, first off, we have history. Okay? So look at where all these 150-mile-an-hour storms were, right? 10 of these 150-mile-an-hour hurricanes that hit the United States here, continental U.S., that hit the United States at 150. Okay, there's been a lot of other hurricanes that might not have made landfall, whatever, but these are 10 landfalling continental U.S. hurricanes that were 150 miles an hour or greater. All but one, 9 of those 10 were tropical storms just 3 days out. Now, let that sink in, right? We're talking about a Thursday landfall, right? This has got time. So today, it's always been about what it does yesterday and today and a little bit of tomorrow. And, Ian, 70 miles an hour storm on a Monday, and it was 155 on Wednesday. So this Gulf is very prone to have rapid intensification. That's how it can happen. Now, nobody knows if this is going to happen or not. I just share the models, share experiences, share some thoughts. But I'm not going to be making up this could be a major hurricane without supporting those concepts. A couple more graphics here I just want to show you. This is the bubbling. So it's real hard not to, don't focus on this. You focus on the center. And you can kind of see a little bit of center going on. And we'll probably see another flare-up of storms here. And there is some shear pushing this away. You can see that here with the visible. Really clear if you focus right here. We got a lot of low-level clouds coming in. These are obviously wrapping around this way. So a lot of big dog Mets that I follow, I'm friends with, they're bringing up the tone that maybe the center is actually, a little bit east of where it should be right now. And if that's the case, we have more of a chance of a Cuba exit, which means a little more shift to the east. So, I'm not going to go against the spaghetti models at this point. I'm not going to go against the ensemble plots, but I've seen things change, and that's why we don't focus on the center line 3 days out. We focus on a general area and where this thing sets up, and it does look like the center is a little bit more closer to the Caymans and Jamaica right now. So that'll be very important data that the hurricane hunters get. Now, when the hurricane hunters get this data and it's solidified, that information gets put into the modeling, and the modeling has an initialization point. So the models right now are kind of going off of a guess of where the center is, but once we get real data from a hurricane hunter, that data gets into the models, and we get a better starting point, and that's where we'll get the same zigzag. But if it's to the east, that zigzag is to the east. If it's to the west, the zigzag is to the west. So the upper level winds patterns don't change much of the tracks, but where that center kind of goes, and a stronger system rides kind of pushes that eastern edge a little bit more. And we see that a lot of the last second east nudges, and that's why Florida Peninsula should be watching this really close for impacts, even without a direct hit. Now, here's satellite for Idalia. This is a weakening Cat 3. But what I want to show you is when Idalia approached, look at these feeder bands coming in, okay? We had 70 tornado warnings from Debbie throughout the state of Florida, okay? Same setup. See these tails? These are tails that stick around, and we get rain training sometimes. But the point of this graphic is this is what a system for so many people in Peninsula watch me, even with the track off to the west. We're going to start getting these feeder bands and tornado warnings as early as Wednesday, and you can see these feeder bands are strong on both sides of the coast. So, and we had a serious surge from Lee County northward. FEMA was involved in every one of our little cities and counties, okay? So, very important to note. Don't focus on this landfall, okay? Don't focus on the landfall as far as impacts. So we've already seen it. Stronger storm, bigger surge. All right, so I do know that states start to take some calls. Emergency management is getting involved. Highly recommend the number one thing for you to do is to Google your county EOC, Emergency Operations Center, EOC. They're going to have the most latest up-to-date information. And I get asked this too. A lot of folks get nervous in times like this, and I cover the broad spectrum of tropics and as a whole. But once we get down to the nitty-gritty stuff of where it's going to hit, this is where you turn to a trusted local meteorologist, okay? I totally think they're the best. They know your area. They're ones that you watch daily maybe and trust. And it's so important to, turn to a local Met that you trust in times like this, okay? I can't even begin to try to cover every area that could be affected by a system like this. So I think, I feel I do a good job leading up to a storm and preparing everybody for the what ifs. And once we get down to it, then I kind of like pass the baton to the local, EOCs, local Mets, and especially national Weather Service offices, which are on this 24/7. They have a team of Mets. I'm a one-man band. I mean, I can only do so much. Okay, what else do I have open? All right, this is another graphic I pulled. This is all 4 different models this morning: HAFS A, HAFS B, the HWRF, and HMON. When it comes to a system like this, I really lean on these models a lot. A couple years ago, I shared the HWRF a lot, and it was scoffed upon. But now I think everybody's catching up on the idea that these models are pretty darn accurate. So now we're lucky enough to have 4 of these style, higher resolution, they call them hurricane models, basically. We got HAFS A, HAFS B, HMON, and HWRF. And this is to point out a couple things. So I kind of randomly threw one from each of the 4 runs. This is Wednesday morning, top left. Look at this right here. These are all what-if scenarios, but this is already Wednesday morning. We could see some feeder bands affecting Florida. Okay, that's a big what if, but a real possibility. Got people in the Keys. Okay, we got folks 2 days from now that might have to prep sailboats and deal with who knows what, livestock. So we could start seeing feeder bands as early as Wednesday. The point of this bottom left one is Friday daybreak, let's say. Our low could be here, but look at this feeder band here. We could still see storms rolling in off the Atlantic up through South Carolina, maybe even reach North Carolina. And look at this. What's that? Well, we got another feeder band off to the west. So because we got this cutoff low catching up to it, this is getting attracted to it. That cutoff low might actually help fuel this thing and maintain some sort of structure. And this is 977 millibar on Friday morning. So you look at millibar pressure. If we get 977 at the tip of Bama and Georgia there, that's, I can't say hurricane, but could be hurricane. I mean, I don't know if we have hurricane warnings that far inland, but the point of the matter is showing you this. A fast-moving system is going to have impacts way inland, okay? That was the biggest shocker for Michael, was people in Georgia and Alabama were like, oh my God, everybody focused on landfall. Nobody talked about us. Inland counties and states had, that was a wake-up call. Like, oh my God, like, where did this come from? So that's the point of that graphic. The HMON was trending closer to Tampa. Now it's kind of backed away a little bit, but the point of this one is surge, even without a direct hit for my area specifically, we could see some pretty significant surge. We get a 920. This is 912 millibar. I mean, come on. I don't want to believe this, but I have to share it because the models rarely are this wrong. We had an 18Z, 00Z, and now 6Z, and they're all showing pretty much the same thing. So you got to show them as a real possibility. And I don't know what the point of the top one was. That was the H Wharf. I guess just showing you, Thursday. Everything's Thursday, except for Wednesday. This is Friday. So not everything's Thursday. It's Wednesday, Friday, Thursday, Thursday. So hopefully that makes some sense, right? And again, this kind of shows you the impacts as a storm passes. Maybe that was the point of this one. Even when we're still dealing with a bad hurricane, we're going to be seeing feeder bands coming around and possibly still storming as this passes by. These feeder bands can get nasty. Okay, we'll have a lot of tornado warnings guaranteed, not just around the center. The eastern side, northern side, all this area will be spawning tornado warnings as it approaches. Why am I getting a restart Windows thing? Is that showing up on your screen? A little bit it is. I don't want to do that. We don't want to do that. All right, so what are these high-intensity models I keep showing? Well, here they are again. This is the 6Z, tropicaltidbits.com, just keeping things in perspective, how bad it could be. These are 10-millimeter winds, so, I mean, come on. We got max winds of 131, 121. These are gusts, I think. I don't know. Anytime you get low pressures, it's bad. Anytime you're in 940s and below, it's bad. Pressure 911, pressure 924, pressure 927, pressure 930. So I was hoping we would see like 2 showing 990, maybe 2 showing the worst case. But when we got all 4 showing worst case, run again and again. Now, who the hell's calling? I don't even answer this phone. Who the hell could that be? Hold on a second. Let me make sure there's anything important. So there you go. Now, the important thing on this thing is, again, tracks. We get a center a little bit to the east. This is going to go to the east. We get a center to the west and go a little bit to the west. So don't focus so much on this yet, except, every 6 hours we get new spaghetti models. We get a 1 day closer to landfall. This is a tricky forecast because of that high pressure coming into place, okay? Usually I say a sneaky east turn is almost guaranteed, but this is different now because we have this high pressure and low coming in. I'm just worried we might get a sneaky west coast tick at the last second. So there's a lot of players going on right now. Typically we don't see a cutoff low coming down, pulling it off to the northwest. after it zigzags close to the East Coast. So it's potentially got a lot of people in its path here to really feel the effects of this thing. And these are some strong winds reaching the coast here. There you go. This was earlier today. Same thing, just showing you the peak winds. Just different way to look at it. This is, good way to look at the winds. There will be a little dry air on the backside. We have a front coming down, but none of the models see it affecting it too much. But these are the big winds. The big winds are always kidney-shaped around a storm and impact, obviously. So that's why you could get serious impacts, not from center. Obviously, center is bad, but just trying to show the winds are going to be way to the north, way to the east. That's the number one thing I hear from people all the time. Oh, man, we can't get emotionally involved with every track change. They're going to wiggle. They're going to wobble. They're going to flip-flop. They're going to windshield wiper, okay? You will absolutely pull your hair out of your head if you react to every little model change. But what we have so far is really good model consistency that we sometimes don't have. The fact that we have so many ensembles and so many models, pinpointing exactly where nobody can guess. There's no point in even trying to guess, okay? Everybody refers back to when I called Michael. The only thing I really did for Michael, believe it or not, was show this kind of stuff when the first Hurricane Center outlook was showing 70. So, general direction, yeah, but pinpointing an exact location is impossible. These things turn at the last second. Turn meaning not turn, bump a little at the last second. Just like Francine last weekend, okay? We're going to get a little wiggle. We're going to get a little wobble, man. Just nobody knows where that little wiggle wobble is going to be. That's why the cone is so important to focus on. Nobody can predict that. If the biggest dogs in the National Hurricane Center, caution you about the center and these models change frequently, wiggles and wobbles, then we just have to be aware that general area, and don't be mad if it doesn't hit you, okay? People get so mad. And I will tell you, the second theme this year I wanted to point out to people, since I've turned into a Debbie Downer when it comes to evacuating, is don't be stubborn. Okay, there's such a stubbornness anymore about evacuating because we've all done it. We've all been inconvenienced by it, and a lot of you have done it, and the storm never came. And I guarantee that's going to happen again. And I understand the frustration of like, I ain't going to evacuate again. But listen, you're messing with, life and death if you're in an evacuation zone. I mean, we saw it with Ian. I mean, you can't mess around with storm surge. Winds is a little different. Winds, if you want an interesting tidbit, 90%, 85 to 90% of all hurricane deaths are surge and inland flooding. Wind is not. Wind is like 2 to 3% so the wind, you hide from the wind, run from the water. That's what they all say, right? But the water is what you got to worry about, okay? The water. If you're in a flood area, okay? They say evacuate tens of miles, not hundreds of miles, okay? To get away from the water. That's the thing. The winds are going to follow you. I mean, people that evacuated Charlie, Ian, the storm went to Orlando. So unless you drive hundreds of miles away, you're going to feel the effects of this one way or another. A passing squall line, tornado warning possibly. So, so hopefully that makes sense to you, why it's so important to listen to your EOC offices about evacuating. And things people don't realize about evacuating, every storm, once you get to a certain mile-an-hour winds, fire trucks, police, they cannot respond. Okay, they will not respond. They won't respond. So you get 911 backlog calls. There's nobody there to help you. Power outages. The after effects of a storm, are terrible. Looting is serious. There's professional looters that actually show up right after a storm. It's scary. I saw so many signs in Ian. You're here to loot, we're here to shoot. And I heard stories of people with flashlights walking in houses in the middle of the night at your neighbor's house, and you just feel helpless, because it's dead quiet. Mosquitoes and the smell of the marsh and who knows what else, and it ain't fun. If that ain't your thing, that's go get a nice hotel somewhere and maybe call if they have a backup generator, and go to ABC and make the best of it. But protect yourself. Don't be stubborn. Don't be stubborn. It's don't mess around with Mother Nature. So they're starting to see flooding maps. This is day 4 outlook. I'm surprised they already are out day 4 already. This is Thursday. But you can see the areas that they're concerned about possible flooding. That reaches all the way to Tennessee and North Carolina. Obviously, the track of our system. So this might get tweaked, obviously. Some of the rainfall totals are showing that stalling out effect here across the Mississippi region here, Kentucky there. So we could see a stalling of this system bringing a lot of rain to the north. There's your, obviously, coastal rains. The only good news here is this. The rain totals themselves, because it's such a fast-moving system, we're not seeing the accumulated values that I was seeing the other day. There could be some isolated spots of rains, but I was surprised this morning. There's really none showing double digits. So it might not be as bad of a rain event as we've seen in the past. So we keep an eye on these operational models, because they'll show you the hints of rain training that sometimes aren't represented when you see a wider blend of rain chances. We saw that with PTC8. It said 4 to 6, 6 to 8 maybe, and we saw 18 inches. But we also had models that showed 18 inches too. The GFS and Euro were showing isolated rain trains. Okay, so we don't see that currently because it's going to be moving so fast. And it all depends on the track, obviously, on that. So let's look at some individual models here that just came out. Operational runs at this point, I don't really like them because it gives a false hope of this thing's not going to be very strong, because they just don't do a good job reading the intensity, but the GFS does. But let's go ahead and look at track at least. The GFS has been definitely winning this battle. This is tropicaltidbits.com. Just kind of give you an idea what it's thinking as it comes up, a little more towards the east side of the Gulf. There is 940 right off the Tampa Bay. That's still Cat 3-ish, even on the conservative GFS. So 940 ain't nothing to mess around with, and it's going to be awfully close here to bring impacts for Florida Peninsula on its way by. Fast moving. Unfortunately, some of the same area that got hit with Idalia and Debbie. And it starts to do that little curve, a little farther to the east than others, but not so much of that east coast skirt that could be a secondary impact. So that's good news for the east coast. The worst case for the east coast would be a fast exit and riding along the coast on its way out. But that front's kind of losing out to the high pressure system. So we can show that here in a minute. Latest Euro AI showing you this for Thursday. 972. Not sure intensity wise how we should trust it, but again, same general location. Little shifts will going to mean so much here. Again, we got more chances of a shift west, I'm afraid, because of this high pressure system that's rolling in. So that's a little more uncertainty on which side of this center line we're going to be looking at. I normally would say I would be more concerned of an east side shift, but I'm definitely a little more concerned about an unexpected last second west side shift because of this high that's developing and is pulling into this low more than anything. Latest icon showing 962, 63. Notice, the tracks are pretty strong. Back in the day, we would this would be very high confidence in this general area. We're going to get a shift here and there, but we're not going to see any major shifts. The thing that I got to caution anybody in Florida is that 20-mile shift can change everything as far as effects go, even without a direct hit, and that obviously affects landfall too. Here's your icon, kind of pulling back up this way, and the timing is the same, Thursday. Latest Euro, conservative Euro, 984. So hey, let's root for the Euro. It'd be a minimal Cat 1. Middle of the road Cat 1. But track's pretty solid. So we got some pretty serious model consistency right now. And I mean, that's rare this early. So that's the only good news at this point, if there is such a thing as good news. Let me show you kind of what's going on upstairs. It's fascinating to me to see how this thing evolves. So we got something brewing over here off the Pacific upper level. And it's coming into play here, right here. Look at this sucker. Here it comes. Look at it. They call this a cutoff low. Do we have any storm chances with that thing? Sometimes we get storm chances with these things. They got a little bit right here coming. Nothing big. All right, so where did it go? Where did you go? Oh, here it is. All right. So wherever our system is down here, here's that low pressure coming down, the dip in the jet stream that usually lifts our systems to the north. But then watch our high pressure kind of get wrapped up back around and push it back this way. So this has been the theme lately. There's our system, 500 millibar level, gets pulled up, absorbs into that a little bit. Tricky. And to tell you another thing, that would bring a lot less dry air into the scene to allow this to continue to strengthen. We might not see that dry air that we were seeing that could have helped weaken it. Now this is going to keep it the dry air away. But here's that high building on the back side, east side, and then it kind of, this only goes, oh, this is only 6Z. But there's our Euro, there's our backside high, and then it kind of pushes our system. And look at it do the Fujiwara effect thing. They get absorbed into one. That's why we could see a lot of rain through the weekend here as this thing gets absorbed into that upper level low. So that's fascinating, right? It's crazy. Let's look at the moisture, though. This is what I'm really seeing. Let's see. If it could be some more dry air. It could be, but no, not really. See the moisture? So there's not as much dry air as there was once shown. That's why most of these models are showing it maintaining pretty strong intensity on its trek northward. So never look at the NAM, by the way. The NAM is not a hurricane model. It always shows worst case scenario. See, here's the H-Wharf, 0 dry air intrusion. This is moisture feed right here. This is going to be fuel for this thing on its journey to the north. That's why we're not seeing much weakening on this. And then there's that turn where they kind of absorb each other. It's crazy. We could really see it, I bet, on this. Nobody cares about that, though, because it doesn't really matter. I really don't care about it. I just think it's fascinating to see why it's going northwest. I had to see for myself more than anything what the heck was going on. Here's that cutoff low, boom, right here, and then it kind of absorbs our system into one big cutoff low. So that's why high pressure is wrapping around the side, pushing it that way. That's where we could maybe see an unexpected bump back to the west at the last second. So we could see, I'm telling you, we could see an unexpected bump to the east if this thing forms to the east, and then an unexpected turn back up a little bit as that thing comes up. So bottom line, like I said, ensembles are everything at this point. You know, we look at those ensembles. There's been plenty of storms that have ended up riding on those ensembles. So don't focus on that center line right now. I'm telling you, they always, this one might not change, but most of the time, I could say 3 out of 4 times, storms 2 to 3 days out do not follow the center. They end up going inside that cone. Thus, we have that cone. So hopefully that makes sense. And yeah, it's real. We're going to get hopefully a PTC at 11 a.m. from the National Hurricane Center. Hopefully they stress the possibility of a major hurricane. They've sometimes, I think they will. They have to. There's too much model support showing this thing. And again, it's what's going on down in there right now. And if we go to Zoom, so little thing about my website here, mikesweatherpage.com, spaghettymodels.com. Also, by the way, the app is working flawlessly. So the Mike's Weather Page app should have all the data on it here with links and stuff. Let me pull it up. I'm looking at the wrong thing. Here we go. There it is, Invest 97. So MicroClear page, look for it on Apple and Android. Another valuable tool if you ever need information on the go. But Zoom, I actually had the Zoom link on there. That's why I wanted to show you. There's a track live on Zoom. It's a really cool website. So all these websites here, Invest 97 has everything. Spaghetti models, ensembles, and spombles, and ensembles, and Berg guidance is amazing. Tang, the Tomerberg and Brian Tang guidance. We have storm products, wind analysis. Go to Zoom first, and I'm going to show you kind of where we're at. All right, so we talked about pressure changes is what we're looking for the chances of development. So what's cool about Zoom.Earth here is that it shows you the progression here of what we've been seeing, and we're down to 1,004. You know, we get down in the 990s today, it's trouble, and that's what we don't want to see. But it's strengthening. 1,007. These pressures lower, those chances and likelihood of this thing becoming a major become a lot more. So that's why it's so important to get real-time information from the hurricane hunters and watch this progression throughout the day. And they don't just measure that. They measure steering currents, high pressures. You know, they get a really good sense in the environment of where this thing is going to go. All that data is fed to the models, and it hopefully puts out a really good output. But we'll keep an eye on that. This is a good site here. Berg guidance, Tomerberg guidance. This is the one where you can do all these super blend of ensembles. A lot of folks like this graphic. A lot of Mets share it. And it just kind of gives you the overall trends of the models. You can go to ensemble means, get a little bit more data on your Euro, Canadian, UK, and GFS. And what's important about this is look at this. This is about as solid as I've ever seen. That is incredible data right there. Incredible data. So you basically got like hundreds. You got 100 plus ensembles from the Canadian, Euro, GFS, and UK. And this plots their average mean. And look at that. You just don't get that very often. So, you know, I still could say we watch the outliers, but if you had to go all in, you trust models like this, because you have to like put them all together and get an average, and this is what they're seeing. So, you know, I mean, I don't have to tell you who, you know, where you live, but that's kind of it, you know. So yeah, and again, you know, a lot of this is based on where the initialization's at. So we get a little storm to the east, and a lot of this could shift east. We get a center development to the west, but the way it looks right now, if anything, our center's actually maybe a little bit ahead of schedule and a little more to the east. Look at tropical tidbits here for timestamps, and 24 hours from the 12Z. These 12Z models just ran. So it was expected to be here sometime tomorrow, and it could be here today. So if any, you know, if it moved a little to the east, then, and it's a little faster, then that obviously changes a little bit. So, you know, there's still, you know, upper level patterns don't change. That's one thing I've learned. Everybody, you know, there's a lot of hype about trying to find a true center, and that is very important for the impacts for the Florida Peninsula and who gets the eye. But the overall steering pattern is still there, and the general zigzag is still there. So, like I was saying, any little shift to the east affects a lot more on the, you know, east side, and there you go. So that's kind of it. I mean, it's, you know, I think it's a rare system set up with this upper level low coming down that we could see if we were to see an unexpected last second jog. It could be more to the west, which is so rare. So it's the zigzag. That's that. So I don't know. No more than that. So how many millions of questions did we get about a specific location? I hope I helped y'all somewhat. So hopefully 11 o'clock we get PTC. That would be awesome. Get some fresh data. We'll get a cone. PTC means potential tropical cyclone. I don't know. I think I covered everything. I'm about ready to lose my voice. I don't want to do that happen. Bob, I think I'm going to read some comments now for a little while. Shelly's over there. I love my brew crew. Oh, man. We'll answer some questions here in a minute and go from there. So I got a lot of great supporters. I was on the phone this morning with OSR. Let me go through a couple of these real quick. Tammy from OSR, they're the ones that get on the ground first. They will be setting up first, and they are damage assessors that point the linemen in the direction to get life back to normal. Okay, big company, big supporters of us. So hello OSR. Big shout out to Furman. Great friends, good friends of mine. I could call them, my circle of friends are small, but these guys are great. Greg's in our chat right now, and Jason and the whole team there. They do a lot for us at MWP. So we appreciate their support. We got direct remodels here locally. I've been talking to Dan every hour. He lives here along the Florida West Coast, but they're big with impact windows. So if you live in Florida, want hurricane windows, they're the ones to call. We have some local companies here. Progressive Tree Care will be traveling to the storm, and they have an amazing service where they help you get the trees off the ground if needed. A lot of that is an insurance nightmare. I hope we get a new graphic here real quick. Things I didn't know about, but like a lot of these tree companies will make you pay up front when you have trees down, and then you have to deal with insurance. They actually, for being MWP fans, they'll do it and they'll handle all the insurance. I didn't know about that. So if you get trees down, my dad's got huge oak trees. Just imagine if something fell and you have no way to get it off your roof or not. So it's important to know they're good friends of ours. Big part of the industry. Done Right Roofing, been with me a lot of years. They're here locally. Pinellas County, Pasco, Hillsborough. Mooring will be on the scene. They're a big disaster restoration company from Texas. They're on the road right now. They're the first ones to start helping get companies back together. Coastal Claims will be there doing insurance adjusting. They're big sponsors of our race car and generally awesome people, Frank Dalton and crew. And of course, Lodging Solutions. That's probably the most important, believe it or not, industry that I had no idea existed. They will be setting up these camps for thousands of linemen. This is going to be a storm. We need thousands and thousands of linemen. Okay, we're not talking power outages, landfall. We're talking power outages way up inland. Okay, if this thing verifies as a 920, 930 hurricane, we got power outages that go deep inland. Okay, and this company's phenomenal, and they feed and house and bathe, and well, they don't actually bathe them, but they bring in showers and just crazy. I didn't even know this existed. They have kitchens, and all this shows up overnight, and this boom, big old city, thousands of beds and cookers, and it's just you just can't imagine what it takes to put on a disaster relief efforts after a storm. I mean, this is stuff I would never been able to talk about if I didn't storm chase. I had no idea this stuff existed, the post recovery of a hurricane. I mean, I feel so bad. My really first storm covering was Michael, and how people forget. And now that is the number one thing I hear about from every storm. The news cycles come, they see the damage, and then they're gone. And then people are left with months to years of recovery, okay? And it hit, and I was probably just as guilty, because unless you're hit by a hurricane, you don't really realize that it goes on and on and on. And getting help, insurance, I mean, come on, it's a nightmare. And I'm not making this up. Ask anybody that's had to deal with a hurricane. There's people still dealing with Michael 6 years later, okay? People make fun and joke about what we do sometimes, and whatever. I mean, it's not fun, man. I mean, these are real life altering moments in time that I've shared stories with. I mean, met a lady down at Fort Myers. I mean, came up to me and, hugged me and said, you saved my granddad or my grandpa, because he wasn't going to evacuate. And she convinced him to evacuate, and his house got totally flooded. Like, he was going to stay, So it's serious stuff, man, for sure. Been talking a lot to my buddy, too, Mr. Sullivan there. Oh, man, up in Apalachicola. John, if you're up there, I'm watching for you, man. But Apalachicola, unfortunately, is a beautiful little city, and they are kind of in the path of this thing too. So I know all the folks up that whole way. We got Tyler over here in our brew crew, and Port St. Place, and Cape St. Place, and Port St. Joe, Cape St. Port Joe. Same areas that were affected with Michael. I get the names all screwed up. But beautiful area here in the northern part of Florida. So we know they're all watching so close, man. But let's just hope the models are wrong. But, man, I just can't see the models being wrong. I've lived and died by these models for years. And I just can't believe that they're still showing, 920, 930, 910 pressures. I mean, the Gulf is just incredible. Can't talk about it enough, but this ocean heat content has just been the story of the year. We talked about it a lot. People got tired of people talking about the water being hot, but this ocean heat content, where it is right now, it's never been that hot since 2013 in the Gulf of Mexico. And this is sampling eastern and western Gulf. The western Gulf has cooled down quite a bit because of our past storms. So that eastern part of that Gulf is the hottest it's been since 13. That's just, one of the bazillion pieces of the puzzle. But we got this very favorable phase of the MJO that's coming in. Those have been proven historically to really ramp up tropical development. So that's entering now. Obviously, dust is not a factor. Shear is expected to be reduced. I want to show the loop current. These have been proven. Gulf. Some of the reasons the Gulf's had the most powerful storms is because of stuff like this. These loop currents. This is unbelievably hot water that feeds moisture. And if this thing comes off the coast of Cuba and does that, I mean, this will be just absolutely fueling our system and making it stronger. It's already hot water here, here, and here. This is water below the surface. And these loop eddies and loop currents, unfortunately, absolutely just fuel storms. And it's proven. This hot water goes thousands of feet below the surface and just endless power, for our system. All kinds of heat energy down here in this area. It's not even there yet, but this is your ocean heat content map, which is, the hottest. It doesn't go any hotter than that. So that's kind of where it's at. It's going to have a day over this before, that's a lot of time. Pressures are already dropping, so that's it, man. How do we think about that? Oh, man. We're not talking specific locations. Oh, NHC said 11 a.m. We got advisories coming. All right. Well, that's kind of good news. So, thank you for that adventure. Shelly, too. Oh, Austin calling, but I can't talk on the phone, Austin. You know that. Tampa's safe, bro. Well, not 100%, man. The Hellcat might be all right. But I'm worried about Tampa's surge being sneaky like Idalia was. And we had a lot of surge here during Idalia. We had surge for Debbie. We had water rescues with Debbie. A little different. Debbie was more rainmaker. But, again, don't get caught off guard and worrying about the center. It's the effects that are wide. This could be a very wide system, okay? It could be. We'll see. But just to give you an idea what it could look like, we could look at let's see, we got an upper level winds. Do we have a simulated IR? Yeah, we do. So this is, Jesus, that's kind of what I was worried about. But this is what the HRR says it could look like. So you can see, we're going to have effects inland, obviously. That's what it could look like. That's an estimated satellite presentation for Thursday morning. That's, ain't a direct hit for Florida Peninsula, but you're going to feel it regardless. That'll be tropical storm warnings. Could be hurricane. I don't know. We get hurricane warnings out wide. You don't know, but probably guaranteed tropical storm warnings will be coming up soon. Not today, probably so much. This would be, oh God. Let's see. Wednesday morning we could see them down south. Today's Monday morning. Well, why not? We could see tropical storm watches for Florida, if not at 11 for sure, 5 p.m. But that's pretty gnarly. That's a little bit of weak, a little drier. Hopefully at the last second. Man, it's that eye that you worry about. It's still bad. And look at that. I mean, that's over land. I mean, come on. Inland effects. Okay, Georgia. That's not. I mean. Trust me, there's people in Georgia right now that have no idea that we could see something like that Thursday. This only goes out every 6 hours, so it'd start to lose a little bit of its tropical characteristics. But we could have Atlanta. I mean, think about it, man. There's places that Macon. A lot of population up there could be experiencing power outages from tornado warnings and storms and trees. And I mean, this is not a coastal event. This is inland event as much. So I hope everybody's getting ready. That means we got a lot of updating to do soon, so I'm going to have to cut it short. We will be live tonight at 9 p.m., okay? Rainfall maps don't look that bad, Laura. Atlanta Metro, Tammy. Yes, this thing could be whipping up. It's kind of definitely going to feel the effects Thursday and Friday in the Atlanta area. So there we go. All right. Well, we got a lot to update. So keep it right here, SpaghettiModels.com, MikeSorterPage.com. We got PTC 9 coming out at 11. We'll have a cone. We'll have watches and warnings soon. They have to be within 48 hours. Otherwise, we won't get them. So don't think because you're not in a watch or warning. And we always get watches before warnings. So you kind of got to know the watch comes first, then the warning. A lot of kids will be out of school on Thursday. I can tell you that. All right. See you tonight, 9 p.m. Eastern.